Zara Tindall wasn't the kind of royal you'd usually see tangled in palace drama. Olympic medalist, grounded, more comfortable on a horse than under a spotlight. But when you come for her family, especially her father, a man who spent his life avoiding headlines, you better be ready for a fight. Because the moment Camilla crossed that line, Zara didn't just step forward, and she charged. It all began with one sentence, a small comment from Sir Timothy Lawrence, Anne's husband, delivered casually during a private dinner after a royal event. Someone asked him who the real backbone of the royal family was, and without fanfare, he simply said, "If there's a pillar after Charles, it's Anne." It wasn't meant to spark a fire, but it did. Because that one sentence hit Camilla where it hurt, her ego. Anne had just returned from a public engagement in Liverpool, where she charmed an entire school full of kids by letting them explore her helicopter. Videos flooded social media. Kids beaming, Anne smiling, Timothy shaking hands like the quietly noble man he's always been. The headlines the next morning painted her as the heart of the monarchy, simple, kind, connected to the people. And then came Timothy's quote, and that was enough to tip Camilla over the edge. At Clarence's house, Camilla heard the playback. She wasn't amused. She wasn't indifferent. She was furious. "Pillar," she spat out, the word tasting bitter. For a woman who'd clawed her way into royal status, who'd endured decades of scrutiny and gossip, being sidelined again wasn't something she could take lightly. And instead of letting it go, she plotted not to reclaim attention, but to destroy. The first sign of her revenge came quietly, for few tabloid whispers questioning the cost of Anne's helicopter trip. Then stories suggesting Anne was stealing the spotlight, and then, boom, the bomb dropped. A blurry video clip leaked online showing Timothy in a shadowy room, shaking hands with a man and taking an envelope. A bribe, the caption claimed. It didn't matter that the footage was grainy or clearly manipulated. The damage was instant. Outrage swelled. News anchors repeated the clip over and over. Timothy's name was dragged through the mud. Commentators speculated about corruption in the monarchy. Suddenly, the man who'd been praised for loyalty and silence was being called a disgrace. Anne held her composure like always, refusing to comment, her expression stoic. Timothy, though, was shattered. He sat in silence, watching the smear campaign unfold, powerless to stop it. And Zara? She watched too, but unlike her parents, she wasn't wired to endure quietly. She saw the headlines, the edited clip, the mockery, and her father's shaking hands. Her blood boiled. This wasn't politics. This wasn't palace rivalry. This was personal. Someone had taken her family's dignity and spit on it. At a formal palace event days later, Camilla made her move publicly. In a smug tone, dressed like she'd won the crown all over again, she leaned into Anne's ear and said, "One careless word from your husband, and now you're all a..." People around them froze. Anne didn't flinch, but Zara heard every word, and that was it. Later that night, while most of the palace slept, Zara sat down at her laptop. No advisors, no PR team, just raw anger and a mission. She called in favors from tech friends, journalists, and digital forensics experts. Within hours, they confirmed what she suspected. The clip was fake. Worse, a leaked audio file tied Camilla directly to its release. Zara listened to the recording once, then again, fists clenched. Her father had served the Navy, her mother had upheld the royal code, and now they were being humiliated over a lie. Enough was enough. She walked into Anne's study, slapped a folder on the table, and said, "Mom, I found everything. It's time to fight back." Anne stared at the folder like it held a loaded weapon. She didn't ask what was inside. Her daughter's eyes already said everything. Zara had the proof. The video was fake. Camilla's voice was on tape, ordering its release. Every instinct in Anne told her to keep quiet, let the storm pass. But this wasn't just about preserving dignity anymore. It was about clearing Timothy's name and protecting the values Anne had spent her life defending. Zara wasn't backing down. "We do this now, or the lie becomes truth forever," she said. Anne opened the folder. Inside were still frames dissecting the video's flaws, shadows that didn't align, audio that didn't match mouth movements, and digital markers revealing it was stitched together. Below that, a printed transcript of Camilla's voice ordering the clip's release. Anne exhaled, quietly, deeply. then nodded. Plans kicked into motion fast. Zara contacted a few trusted reporters, not gossip columnists, but real journalists who valued evidence over shock. A press conference was arranged in less than 48 hours. Security was tight. The royal press office, when informed, didn't try to stop it, but they didn't support it either. It was clear this wasn't going to be a palace-sanctioned event. It was mother and daughter going rogue, betting everything on the truth. On the morning of the press conference, storm clouds rolled over London. Reporters swarmed outside the venue, cameras clicking non-stop, live streams buzzing with speculation. Nobody knew what Anne was going to say, but the internet was already ablaze. Princess Anne to break silence, Zara to expose truth, Camilla's lies coming undone. The headlines wrote themselves. The doors opened slowly. Anne and Zara walked in side by side, calm, composed, not a trace of hesitation. Timothy sat in the front row, dressed in a simple navy suit, hands clasped tight. Reporters fell silent. Flashes popped once, then died down. Anne stepped up to the microphone first. Her voice was clear, steady, cutting through the tension like a knife. Honor is not built through headlines or appearances. It is built through truth, and today we are here to set that truth free. The room was still. No scribbling, no whispering, just eyes locked on her. She stepped aside. Zara took her place, holding a small USB. Her hands trembled at first, but her voice didn't. This is the original footage, and here is the breakdown. Behind her, a massive screen flickered on. Frame by frame, the video played. Analysts pointed out flaws. The shadows under Timothy's chin and the handshake didn't match the room's lighting. The envelope's angle changed between frames. The sound was spliced from a different clip. Gasps echoed through the room. Zara continued, her voice sharper now. And this is the audio, leaked from the team that staged it. Then Camilla's voice filled the hall. Strike at Timothy to humiliate Anne. Take down Anne and this throne will be mine. It felt like time stopped. No one spoke. Some reporters sat back in shock. Others instinctively reached for their phones, tweets already forming in their minds. The damage was done. Only now, the truth was what had done the damage, not lies. Zara looked up from the mic, eyes blazing. My father served this country. My mother serves this family. Neither of them deserved to be smeared for one woman's insecurity. Timothy stood, slowly walking to the podium. He didn't say much, just one sentence. We don't seek revenge. We seek truth. Then, for a moment that felt eternal, the entire room rose and applauded. A standing ovation, not for status, not for royalty, but for courage. And somewhere far away in the cold corridors of Clarence House, Camilla watched it all unfold. Helpless, alone, and defeated. Clarence House felt like a tomb. The silence was no longer dignified. It was suffocating. Curtains drawn tight, calls unanswered, aides walking on eggshells. Camilla's downfall hadn't come through scandal or hearsay. It had arrived wearing truth like armor, delivered not by enemies, but by the very family she had tried to undermine. No apology came from Charles, no public defense, no quiet words behind closed doors, just silence, the kind that burns more than blame. He'd watched the press conference from Windsor, eyes fixed, jaw clenched, unmoving until the final frame. When it ended, he simply stood and walked out, leaving the screen still glowing with his sister's face and his wife's disgrace. Camilla's phone buzzed endlessly in the days that followed, but no one called to offer sympathy. The press hounded her for answers, but every time she appeared in public, the questions grew sharper. Do you deny the recording? Was the video your idea? Will you step down? Her face, once a fixture of ceremonial pride, now plastered tabloids with captions like "The Liar Queen" and "Camilla's Final Act." One afternoon, when the pressure hit a breaking point, the palace released a quiet statement. It was only 2 lines, but it said everything. Her Majesty Queen Camilla will be stepping back from public duties indefinitely. Further comments will not be made. It was the closest thing to a royal dismissal. Behind the palace gates, her world crumbled. Staff who once rushed to her call now avoided her gaze. Invitations stopped arriving. Whispers grew louder than greetings. And worst of all, she was left alone to face the very thing she had tried to destroy: public judgment. Zara, meanwhile, became something else entirely. She didn't seek the spotlight, but it found her. Schools printed out her, quote, "The truth never bows" on banners. Talk shows called her the new voice of royal integrity. Social media exploded with support. Artists painted murals of the moment she stood at the podium beside Anne, the image of three hands, Timothy's, Anne's, and Zara's, locked in silent unity, became a symbol far bigger than one family. It stood for dignity, legacy, and the end of toxic silence. And didn't bask in it, but she allowed it. She walked with her daughter through those crowds now not as just a royal, but as a mother who had seen her child rise to defend what generations before had buried. And Timothy, once anonymous in the backdrop of royal life, now walked with his head held high. People approached him not out of curiosity, but respect. Veterans saluted him in public. Children recognized him as Zara's dad, the brave one. His honor wasn't just restored, it was immortalized. In the final days of the fallout, a private family meeting was held. Charles gathered only those he trusted: Anne, William, Zara, and a few senior royals. Camilla wasn't invited. There was no ceremony, no verdict read aloud. Just a mutual understanding that the old order had shifted. Camilla was no longer a part of the core. The crown would move forward without her. On the day she quietly left the palace, no one stood at the gates. No fanfare, no farewell, just a single black car pulling away from stone walls she had once dreamed of conquering. She looked back only once, eyes hollow, as if searching for a trace of the power she'd lost. What remained was a new kind of monarchy, one not propped up by illusion or fear, but by something raw and honest. And at the center of it stood Zara, unshaken, unapologetic, and unforgettable. She didn't need a throne. The people had already crowned her with something far more lasting: respect.